The federal government is keen on making more money and has decided that people have to pay for it by way of an increase in value-added tax. The proposed VAT increase is coming against the background of political and economic uncertainty occasioned by long-standing corruption, poor economic management, and exacerbating budgetary financing. The World Bank recently noted that fiscal deficits in Nigeria will likely widen further due to increased pre-election spending and sustained revenue shortfall because the economy remains dependent on the oil sector, which is less than 10% of the GDP for the bulk of its fiscal revenues and foreign exchange earnings. This makes the country's balance of payments and government's budget vulnerable to volatilities in oil prices. It was against this background that on September 11th, the federal government's Federal Executive Council agreed a 50% hike in value added tax, VAT from 5% to 7.5%. The decision of the federal government to undertake this increment was not unexpected, as there had been rumor in government circles on the need for an increase as a way of meeting the expansive fiscal expenditure needs of the federal government. The former Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, and the Executive Chairman of FRS, Babatunde Fowler, hinted during an interactive session with the National Assembly earlier in the year that VAT rate was likely to go up to enable government fund the new minimum wage of 30,000 naira per month approved by the National Assembly. Now, many analysts agree that government needs money and should find ways of getting the monies. But more critically, the federal government needs to cut down on its expenditure. Most critical of these is corruption and the cost of corruption, which has become an economic sabotage that overflows efficient expenditure that benefits the country and its citizens. Let's make more sense of this. I have the President, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Mrs. Gladys Olajumoke Simplis. Thank you very much for joining us on the studio today.
Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here.
I'm going to start this way. When you heard this news, from 5% to 7.5. First we had 7.2. Now they said it's 7.5. Whichever way. How did it come to you?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. And it's supposed to have been here even earlier than now. Value-added tax started, the act was in 1993, Act 102 of 1993. It took effect in 1994. By all standards, that is 25 years. And when that act was put in place, the intention was to gradually increase from 5%. Nothing happened. 2007, an attempt was made. Nothing happened. Earlier this year, another attempt, a pronouncement was brought up. It was killed. I think we just need to sit down now and look at it straight in the face and say, let us have it. How much of it do we have? How do we ameliorate the effect is what we should now be thinking about. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. It ought to have come a long time ago.
Some say the timing might not be very right, looking at what we face, purchasing power, and what is happening in the economy, around the economy at this time.
There is never a time for such things like that. You can never say this is the time for it. The thing is, it's like your wife, you just got married, and then your wife says, I want to start family, and you said, no, we can't start family now. Let us enjoy each other first, and this and that. In between, 5 years gone. Don't forget that a woman's lifetime is short. Productive lifetime is short. 5 time elapses. In between that time, the husband loses his job. It was not envisaged. So what time can they now start to have family? That is the issue. We need to look at these things dispassionately. And I want to say that I believe that Nigerians are not averse to the increase. I think it is the deficit of trust that we have between Nigerians and the government. Is that trust deficit? Because let me tell you, if this thing is increased and alongside the increment, companies' income tax is reduced. Personal income tax is reduced. That releases money to the hands of employees and company. Yeah. So all we need to now look at is the ameliorating effect. How can we ameliorate it? And the first thing that should happen really is, let us look at the Value Added Tax Act itself and all other taxes that affect Nigerians. Last week, I was at National Assembly and I said, right things are not happening in this nation because we were called to National Assembly to look at what is going to happen for budget processes. And I said, it's good that it's happening because now we are talking about budgets and we are also talking about how to get the revenue for the budget. Prior to now, it wasn't happening. They will just do budget. Nobody is looking at where the money will come from. And then we end up heavily with deficit budgeting. So now we are looking at it. What we should do is to look at the laws. Value Added Tax Act. Let us look at it. The amendment, let us amend the Value Added Tax in such a way that, for example, turnover of small and medium enterprises that is less than 10 million should be exempt from registration for VAT. Then the input VAT that companies, you buy assets, machinery, such input VAT should be allowed. And where companies have refund, the process of refund should be made easier for companies to get their refund. Even if they're not going to get their refund, let them be able to use it easily for credit against taxes. These are the things we need to look at. And let us, for God's sake, let us move from direct tax to indirect tax. And what do we mean? If you move from direct tax to indirect tax, indirect tax is what it's so easy to pay. It's so easy to administer, you know. And when that is done, you pay VAT without knowing. You don't feel it because you just go, you buy chocolate, you buy ice cream, you buy drinks. It is the cost that you are looking at and the satisfaction that you get. That's what you are looking at. You buy it because you want to eat it. But if you don't eat it, you don't pay.
Indeed. I'd like you to stress on this issue of deficit of trust. It's important because I normally cite example of a state like Lagos where people say, oh wow, we can see what government is actually doing with funds accrued from taxation. But other states, I don't think they can say the same of them.
No, because you see, everybody has been so complacent about the issues of tax. We didn't care. We didn't care. We didn't call the government, our governments to order. We didn't call them to question. We just didn't care. Because, you know why we didn't care? Because it was oil money. And we have just seen now, we have seen the volatility of oil prices affects all the countries that depend on oil. And Nigeria is one country that depends so much on it. Thank God that we are moving away from oil. If you look at the figures, non-oil is now contributing more than oil. Good, that is the way we should go. We should go the way of taxation. Let us look at taxation. Let us not look at the oil prices. It's so volatile. Look at what is happening now. Yes. Just because Saudi Arabia has been bombed, we are in trouble. Even if, and don't forget that Nigerians can now say, oil prices will go to 70 and they will start jubilating. We shouldn't even look at it like that. We shouldn't. We should look at tax money. Let us look at the company's income tax. Amendment to company's income tax is very critical to the increase in VAT rate. Amendment to VAT Act is very, very critical to it.
So all of these laws need to be
Yes, they need to be reviewed. And I'm happy that we are talking about it before the budget is passed. I think we should have started talking about it around February, March, so that all these issues of amendment and the National Assembly should take this in its stride and make sure that every year, before the budget is passed, taxation laws are reviewed to look at, okay, how much are we budgeting? How much do we need for this budget? How much can taxation absorb? Other revenues, how much? Where can we get them from?
Now, I want to also ask this question because it's also been raised on many forums when they argue that we need to expand the tax net. Some say not by introducing new taxes or increasing taxes, that we are yet to even collect from all those due or that are supposed to pay. Many people evade tax payments. So how well have we done that before we now bring in 7.5% into the game at this time?
If you follow the trend, the chairman of FRS said there are still about 23,000 people outside the tax net.
Yes.
And he has moved people from the tax net from 20 million to 40 million, and is still gaining ground. Nigerians are very difficult people. We are a very difficult set of people. We can complain. But let me tell you, when we go out there, don't we pay? We pay taxes. So why wouldn't we pay taxes in our country to develop our country the way those countries that we always cite are developed? Now, one thing that I'm happy about, which I always say, is that taxation has been brought to our different homes, to our consciousness. So whatever we are doing now, we are also thinking about taxes. And one step that I believe the government has taken, which we all should also encourage government to continue to do, is this issue of universal tax identification number, integrating all data of everybody. That way, everybody's details are known. Those who are outside the tax net are brought in. Those who are in the tax net are identified. And I've always also said, one other thing that the government can also do is to encourage those who are even paying by rewarding them. There's nothing wrong stopping us from having a national tax day. And at that national tax day, we recognize even individuals who have dutifully paid their taxes.
That's a good one. Looks very good. Almost finally now. The role of professionals, you can't just rule that out in all of this. You're the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and your members, associates have a role to play in all of this. Where do they come in?
In all of this, where the professionals come in, not necessarily the tax professionals, all professional bodies.
Great.
Let me talk about the tax professional bodies. What we do, we educate, we enlighten, we hold seminars, we go hold stakeholders meeting, town hall meeting, sectorial meeting. But let me tell you, we advertise, we call people, we call everybody. This is when in July, this issue of VAT increase came up. We went to town, did a seminar on it. And we felt, well, this is a burning issue. We should expect like 300, 400 people. Less than 200 people came. Meanwhile, we have budgeted for lunch. It was a free seminar. We have budgeted for lunch, but people are just not there. Now, I was on channels. And after that episode in channels, people now started, my friends started calling, what you explained to us, is it true? I said, yes, it's true. If you don't consume, you don't pay. Is it true that there are exemptions? And I said, it is true. They said, but you are not telling us. And I said, we do enlightenment. FRS does enlightenment. Everybody does. Lagos State, every state. We do enlightenment. And somebody told me once that if you want to deny a Nigerian of something, put it in a book. Because it's not likely to open the book. Because we don't care. We don't want to learn. We don't want to learn. We, as a professional body, we try to enlighten, to educate. And our members too. As we go out there, we educate our clients. We tell them these are the things we should do. These are what the law says. This is the way you can go. And of course, there is tax evasion and there is tax avoidance. You know, whichever one. The tax avoidance, within the confine of the laws, you can help your client. But outside that, you tell your client, this is what the law says, and this is what you must do as professionals. And as professional bodies, I've said it even at the APBN, Association of Professional Bodies of Nigeria Summit, that as professional bodies, we have engineers in this country now. Engineers, whenever structural budget is passed, let them form a formidable pressure group to look at the structure. Where are the roads they want to build? The structural engineers, the electrical engineers, you know, professional bodies like that. They want to talk about pharmaceuticals. The Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria should be involved. Yeah. They want to talk about the economists. The Economic Society should be involved. So professional bodies in our own different capacities should form pressure group and put government on its toes. Accountability is key. Like I said, this is deficit of trust between the government and the people. That is it. We need to build that bridge. And I think between now and when that increment law is passed, let us talk. We need to talk. We need to talk about it.
We'll keep talking, Madam President. Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, that is Olajumoke, please, making sense of what we should expect with the plan proposed hike from 5.5% to 7.5%. That's talking about value added tax. Thank you very much indeed for your time.